Anna wasn't expecting to feel the pang of betrayal again, not from her sister. It had been nearly 6 months since she'd ended her engagement to Carl. Their 3-year relationship had seemed picture-perfect from the outside, a whirlwind romance, candlelit dinners, shared dreams of a future together. But the cracks had started to show well before the proposal. Carl had always been charming but also selfish, dismissive of Anna's needs and often secretive about his whereabouts. The final blow came when Anna discovered flirtatious messages between him and a coworker, their tone unmistakably intimate. Though he insisted it was nothing serious, Anna had known better. It was a lie she couldn't forgive. Breaking off the engagement had been painful. She'd poured so much of herself into that relationship that walking away felt like losing a piece of her identity. But over time, she'd come to terms with it. She reminded herself daily that she deserved better, even as she avoided the inevitable questions from friends and family about what had gone wrong. Her sister, Lisa, had been her rock through it all, or so Anna thought. Lisa was 2 years younger, vibrant and free-spirited, someone who always seemed to float effortlessly through life. Growing up, they'd been close, though their personalities couldn't have been more different. Anna was the careful planner, the responsible older sibling, while Lisa often chased fleeting passions and made decisions on impulse. Still, Anna had always trusted her. Lisa had comforted her after the breakup, offering kind words and assuring Anna she'd made the right decision. That's why the discovery of their betrayal felt like a knife to the chest. It started innocently enough on a quiet Saturday evening. Anna had been scrolling through her social media feed, sipping tea and trying to relax after a stressful week at work. Her thumb paused mid-scroll when a familiar face caught her eye. It was Lisa, smiling brightly in a photo with none other than Carl. At first, Anna thought she was imagining things. Maybe it was an old photo, something from a group gathering when she and Carl were still together. But no. The caption made her stomach drop. "Date night with my favorite person. Date night." The words swirled in her head as she stared at the screen, the tea in her hand growing cold. Her heart pounded in her chest, disbelief giving way to anger. She clicked on Lisa's profile, her fingers trembling as she scrolled through recent posts. There were more photos. Lisa and Carl at a cozy cafe, Carl leaning in to whisper something in Lisa's ear, both of them laughing like they didn't have a care in the world. Anna's mind raced. How long had this been going on? Had it started before her breakup with Carl? The idea that her sister, her confidant, could betray her like this was almost too much to process. She felt a surge of nausea as memories of her tearful conversations with Lisa came flooding back. How many times had she cried to her about Carl's infidelity, about how hard it was to let go? Had Lisa been secretly seeing him even then? Anna's first instinct was to call her sister and demand an explanation. Her hand hovered over her phone, but she stopped herself. Confronting Lisa while she was still in the throes of anger wouldn't get her the answers she needed. Instead, she decided to dig deeper. Over the next few hours, Anna became a detective. She combed through Lisa's social media, piecing together a timeline of events. The more she uncovered, the more it became clear that Lisa and Carl's relationship wasn't new. There were subtle hints, cryptic captions, photos of the same locations posted on the same day, but never together. They'd been careful not to make their connection obvious, but now that Anna knew what to look for, the signs were glaring. What hurt most wasn't just the betrayal itself, but the calculated nature of it. Lisa must have known how much this would hurt her, yet she'd gone ahead anyway. The final blow came later that night, when Anna overheard Lisa talking on the phone. Their parents had invited both sisters over for dinner, and Lisa was staying the night in their childhood home. As Anna passed by Lisa's room, she heard her voice, light and playful, through the slightly ajar door. "Can't wait for next week. The resort looks amazing. I've always wanted to go snorkeling." Anna froze. She knew about the trip. Her mother had mentioned that Lisa was taking a vacation soon, but she hadn't known Carl was going with her. "Yeah," Lisa continued, her voice dropping to a flirtatious whisper. It'll be nice to get away, just the two of us. I feel like we've been sneaking around forever. It'll be good to finally relax together, you know? Anna's fists clenched at her sides. Sneaking around forever, so it had started while she and Carl were still together. A wave of fury washed over her, but she forced herself to stay quiet. Lisa couldn't know she'd overheard. Later that night, lying awake in her childhood bed, Anna's mind churned with thoughts of revenge. Part of her wanted to confront Lisa and Carl directly, to expose their lies to their family and friends, but another part of her, the part that had always been level-headed, knew that wasn't the way to go. A confrontation would only lead to a screaming match, and people like Lisa and Carl would find a way to twist the narrative, painting Anna as bitter and vindictive. No, she decided, if she wanted justice, she'd have to be smarter about it. By the time dawn broke, Hannah had a plan. She would let Lisa and Carl go on their little vacation. She wouldn't stop them. Instead, she'd use their trip as an opportunity to teach them a lesson they wouldn't forget. For the first time in hours, Anna felt a small smile tug at her lips. If Lisa and Carl thought they could betray her and live happily ever after, they were sorely mistaken. For days, Anna worked tirelessly on her plan, driven by a mix of hurt and determination. The sting of betrayal hadn't faded, but she wasn't letting her emotions cloud her judgment. If she wanted her plan to succeed, she needed to be meticulous and strategic. Lisa and Carl's trip would be her stage, and she was determined to control the spotlight. The first step was gathering information. Over the years, Anna had come to recognize Lisa's predictable habits. Her sister loved posting updates about her life on social media, pictures of her meals, check-ins at trendy cafes, and, of course, the countdown to her much-anticipated tropical vacation. Lisa's enthusiasm for showing off was both her weakness and Anna's advantage. Anna began her research by combing through Lisa's posts, jotting down key details, the name of the resort, their flight times, and even the types of activities they'd planned. Lisa, it seemed, had spared no expense for this trip with Carl. From romantic spa treatments to sunset dinners on the beach, everything had been carefully curated to create the perfect couple's getaway. The thought made Anna's stomach churn, but she channeled her emotions into action. Next, Anna turned her attention to the resort itself. A quick search revealed that it was a 5-star property renowned for its luxury and exclusivity. It boasted private villas, gourmet dining, and a host of activities tailored to couples looking for romance. Anna couldn't help but scoff at the irony. Carl, who'd once complained about her preference for fancy places, was now indulging in exactly that with her sister. Using the resort's official website, Anna familiarized herself with its booking policies and amenities. She noted the contact information for their customer service team and even found the email address of the concierge. This would be her entry point. The real challenge, however, was crafting a believable story. Anna needed to approach the resort without raising suspicion. After some brainstorming, she decided to create a fake identity, a trick she'd learned from watching one too many true crime shows. She set up a new email account under the name Rebecca Green, complete with a matching LinkedIn profile. Rebecca would be a travel agent managing Lisa and Carl's booking, a professional tasked with ensuring their trip went smoothly. Her first email to the resort was polite and professional. Dear Resort Name Team, I hope this message finds you well. I'm Rebecca Green, a travel agent working with one of your upcoming guests, Lisa, who has a reservation from alas the name. My clients are very excited about their stay, and I wanted to make a few adjustments to their itinerary to better suit their preferences. Could you please confirm their booking details so I can proceed with the requested changes? Looking forward to your response. Best regards, or up Green. Finally, hit send and waited, her heart pounding with a mix of nerves and anticipation. She wasn't sure if the resort would respond, but she didn't have to wait long. Within a few hours, a representative replied, providing all the details she needed: Lisa and Carl's villa number, their reservation for a couple's massage, and even the time of their private dinner on the beach. Armed with this information, Anna began making changes. She contacted the resort again, this time requesting specific adjustments. "Thank you for your prompt response. After discussing with my clients, I'd like to make a few modifications to their stay. 1. Please downgrade their villa to a standard room. My clients have decided they'd prefer a simpler accommodation for a more authentic experience. 2. Cancel the couple's massage and replace it with individual treatments on separate days. 3. Reschedule the private dinner to a shared dining experience in the main restaurant. Please confirm once these changes have been made. Best regards, Rebecca Green." The resort complied without question, and Anna could hardly contain her satisfaction. But she wasn't done yet. She moved on to their travel arrangements. Through Lisa's Instagram stories, Anna had learned which airline they'd booked for their flight. Using Carl's full name, which she remembered from their time together, Anna called the airline and posed as Lisa. Claiming there was a family emergency, she requested a seat change for Carl, moving him to a different part of the plane, away from Lisa. The final touch was notifying Carl's boss about his vacation. Anna had always suspected that Carl wasn't entirely honest at work, and a little online sleuthing confirmed it. His company's website listed an anonymous email address for employee concerns, and Anna sent a brief, carefully worded message. "Dear Current, I wanted to inform you that one of your employees, Carl last name, is currently on an unapproved vacation. I thought you'd want to know, as it might impact your operations. Best regards, a concerned party." By the end of the week, Anna's plan was in full motion. Lisa and Carl would have no idea what hit them. The morning of their departure, Anna felt a strange sense of calm. For the first time since discovering their betrayal, she wasn't consumed by anger or sadness. Instead, she felt empowered. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming her sense of control. Later that day, Anna received a text from their mother. "Lisa just left for the airport. She's so excited. It's nice to see her happy. Hope you're doing okay too, sweetie." Anna stared at the message for a moment before typing back, "I'm fine, Mom. Thanks for checking in." She didn't add anything else. As Lisa and Carl boarded their flight, completely unaware of what awaited them, Anna allowed herself a small smile. The wheels were already in motion, and there was no turning back now. Lisa and Carl arrived at the tropical resort under a sky painted with soft pinks and oranges from the setting sun. The warm ocean breeze kissed their faces as they stepped out of the airport shuttle, the salty air promising a week of paradise. Lisa, as usual, was brimming with excitement, clutching Carl's arm and chatting about all the activities she had planned. Carl, on the other hand, seemed distracted. He'd spent most of the flight dealing with an unexpected seating mishap. Lisa had been livid when they discovered they weren't seated together, but Carl had reassured her it was probably just a mistake. Still, the inconvenience had set an uneasy tone for the trip, one that Carl couldn't quite shake. As they approached the resort's reception desk, Lisa's mood lifted again. The lobby was stunning. An open-air space with cascading waterfalls and a view of the ocean that stretched endlessly into the horizon. "This is going to be perfect," she whispered to Carl, squeezing his hand. But the moment they checked in, the first cracks in Lisa's dream getaway began to show. "I'm sorry," the receptionist said with a polite but firm smile, "but there's been a change to your reservation." Lisa blinked, her cheerful demeanor faltering. "A change? What kind of change?" The receptionist glanced at her computer screen. "Your reservation has been updated to a standard room. It's still a beautiful space, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it, but it's not the villa you originally booked." "A standard room?" Lisa's voice rose, her frustration evident. "That's not what I paid for. I specifically booked the honeymoon villa. This has to be a mistake." Carl shifted uncomfortably beside her. "Can't you check again? Maybe it's a mix-up." "I've double-checked," the receptionist said apologetically. "The changes were made by your travel agent, Rebecca Green. She requested the downgrade to better suit your preferences. Rebecca Green? Lisa repeated, her brow furrowing. I don't have a travel agent. Carl frowned, glancing at Lisa. Didn't you say your mom helped you with some of the bookings? Maybe she arranged it. Lisa shook her head, her frustration growing. No, I handled all of this myself. Despite their protests, the receptionist explained that the resort was fully booked and no other accommodations were available. They had no choice but to accept the downgrade. By the time they were escorted to their room, Lisa's mood had soured completely. The standard room, while clean and comfortable, was a far cry from the luxurious villa Lisa had envisioned. There was no private plunge pool, no ocean view, and certainly no romantic ambiance. The disappointment was palpable as Lisa dropped her suitcase onto the bed with a huff. This can't be happening, she muttered, pacing the small room. I planned everything perfectly. How could this happen? Carl, sensing the tension, tried to soothe her. It's not the end of the world, Lisa. We're still at a beautiful resort. Let's make the most of it. But Lisa wasn't ready to let it go. No, Carl, this isn't what I signed up for. I wanted this to be special. Our first real trip together. How can I enjoy it when everything's already going wrong? Carl sighed, running a hand through his hair. Let's just relax tonight and figure it out tomorrow. We're here to have a good time, remember? Lisa reluctantly agreed, but the uneasy tension lingered. The next morning, they decided to move forward with their planned activities, hoping to salvage the trip. First on the itinerary was the couples massage Lisa had been raving about for weeks. She'd booked it as a romantic bonding experience, imagining soft music, scented oils, and side-by-side relaxation with Carl. But when they arrived at the spa, the receptionist informed them that their booking had been adjusted. Instead of a couples massage, they had separate appointments, on different days. What do you mean, separate appointments? Lisa demanded, her voice rising again. That's not what I booked. The spa receptionist apologized, but explained that the changes had been requested by their travel agent. Lisa was livid. This is ridiculous, she exclaimed, throwing up her hands. Why would a travel agent I don't even know keep changing my plans? Carl, clearly uncomfortable, suggested they skip the massage altogether, but Lisa refused. I need this massage, she snapped. Maybe it'll help me calm down before I lose my mind. While Lisa stormed into her appointment, Carl wandered the resort alone, his patience wearing thin. He was starting to feel like a punching bag for Lisa's frustrations, and it was beginning to weigh on him. This trip, he realized, wasn't shaping up to be the romantic escape he'd imagined. The final blow came that evening. Lisa had been clinging to the promise of their private beachfront dinner, certain it would salvage the trip. She dressed up in her finest outfit, carefully applying her makeup and fixing her hair. By the time she and Carl arrived at the designated area, she'd managed to convince herself that the worst was behind them. But when they approached the hostess, they were informed that their private dinner had been changed to a communal seating arrangement in the main restaurant. Lisa's face turned red with anger. You have got to be kidding me. This isn't what I paid for. The hostess, clearly used to dealing with disgruntled guests, remained calm. I understand your frustration, ma'am, but these changes were requested in advance by your travel agent. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do at this point. Carl, who had been trying to stay patient, finally snapped. Enough with the travel agent. This is ridiculous. Who even is this Rebecca Green? I don't know, Lisa snapped back. I've never heard of her. Their argument continued throughout dinner, the tension between them palpable to everyone around them. By the time they returned to their room, the cracks in their relationship had widened into chasms. Lisa sat on the edge of the bed, her face in her hands. This was supposed to be perfect, she whispered, her voice trembling. I wanted this to be special for us. Carl, standing by the window, stared out at the darkened beach. Maybe if you stopped trying to control everything, we wouldn't be in this mess. Lisa looked up, her eyes narrowing. Are you blaming me for this? You think this is my fault? I'm just saying, Carl replied, his tone sharp, that maybe if you weren't so obsessed with making everything perfect, you'd actually enjoy yourself. Lisa's eyes filled with tears, but she refused to let them fall. You know what, Carl? Maybe you should have just stayed home. Maybe I would have had a better time without you. The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. Carl didn't respond, and Lisa didn't try to take it back. As they lay in bed that night, back to back and wide awake, neither of them realized that the chaos of their trip was far from over. The morning after their explosive argument, Lisa woke up to the sound of crashing waves and the faint hum of resort staff bustling outside their room. Despite the idyllic surroundings, the tension in the small, downgraded room was suffocating. Carl was already up, sitting by the window with his arms crossed, staring out at the horizon. Lisa rubbed her temples, trying to will away the dull headache pounding behind her eyes. The events of the last 2 days replayed in her mind like a bad dream. The downgraded room, the separated spa appointments, the public dinner fiasco. All of it had turned the romantic getaway she'd envisioned into an ongoing nightmare. And "We need to talk," Lisa said finally, her voice strained. Carl turned to her, his expression unreadable. "About what?" he asked flatly. "About everything," Lisa replied, sitting up in bed. "This trip, us, I don't know what's happening, but it feels like everything is falling apart." Carl sighed, leaning back in his chair. "Maybe it's because you planned this trip like it was supposed to fix everything. Like all the problems we had before we came here would magically disappear because we're at a resort." Blake waved for the boy to stay silent. Lisa felt a sting of anger rise in her chest. "What problems? You mean me wanting things to be nice? Me trying to plan something special for us?" "No, Lisa," Carl said sharply. "I mean the way you always need to control everything. It's exhausting. This trip isn't even about us. It's about you trying to prove something. Trying to make it look perfect so you can post about it and pretend everything's fine." Lisa's jaw tightened. "That's not true." "Isn't it?" Carl challenged, his voice rising. "Because from where I'm standing, it feels like I'm just an accessory to whatever perfect fantasy you've built in your head. And now that things aren't going your way, you're blaming everyone else. Me, the resort, this fake travel agent." Lisa's head snapped up. "The travel agent is real," she shot back. "Someone is messing with us, don't you see that? These changes didn't just happen by accident." Carl let out a bitter laugh. "And who exactly would go to all this trouble, Lisa? Who cares enough to ruin your trip?" The question hung in the air, and for the first time, Lisa didn't have an immediate answer. She didn't want to say it out loud, but a small, nagging thought had been growing in the back of her mind since they'd arrived. Anna. Her sister had seemed oddly distant over the past few weeks, replying to texts with curt messages and avoiding family dinners, and Lisa couldn't ignore the timing. Anna had ended her engagement to Carl just months before this trip. Could she? The idea seemed ridiculous at first. Anna wasn't the vengeful type. But then again, Lisa couldn't deny that something about her behavior had changed. "I think it's Anna," Lisa said quietly, almost to herself. Carl frowned. "Anna? Your sister?" "Yes," Lisa said, sitting up straighter. "Think about it. She's the only one who knew we were coming here. She's been acting strange lately, and—" "Stop," Carl interrupted, his tone firm. "I don't want to hear this." "Why not?" Lisa demanded, her frustration bubbling over. "You know how things ended between you two. Don't you think it's possible she's still angry, that she might want to get back at us?" Carl stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "I'm not doing this, Lisa. I'm not going to sit here and let you turn this into some conspiracy theory." "It's not a theory," Lisa exclaimed. "She has a reason to—" "No, she doesn't," Carl snapped, his voice colder than she'd ever heard it. "Because if anyone here has a reason to be angry, it's Anna. You're the one who crossed the line, Lisa, not her." Lisa's breath caught in her throat. The words hung heavy in the room, cutting through her like a blade. Carl shook his head, his expression hard. You think I don't feel guilty about what happened? About how things started between us? I do. But the difference between you and me is that I don't lie to myself about it. Anna didn't deserve what we did to her. And if this is her way of getting back at us, maybe... Lisa stared at him, stunned. For the first time, she felt the full weight of her actions, of their betrayal. She had convinced herself that what they'd done was justified, that her feelings for Carl somehow excused the pain they'd caused Anna, but hearing Carl say it out loud shattered that illusion. Carl grabbed his bag and slung it over his shoulder. I'm going for a walk, he said, not meeting her eyes. Don't wait up. Lisa sat frozen as the door clicked shut behind him. For hours, she remained in the room, staring at the walls and replaying every decision she'd made over the past year. The guilt she'd suppressed for so long rose to the surface, raw and suffocating. She thought about Anna, about the countless times she'd comforted her sister while secretly seeing Carl behind her back. She thought about the look on Anna's face when she'd finally found out, and how Lisa had dismissed her pain, telling herself it was better this way. But was it really? Lisa's thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime from her phone. She glanced at the screen and saw a new email notification. It was from Anna. With trembling fingers, Lisa opened the email. The subject line read, "The Truth." The message was short and to the point. Dear Lisa, I hope you've enjoyed your trip. I thought you should know that it wasn't just bad luck or a travel agent's mistake. Every inconvenience, every disruption was deliberate. I wanted you to feel even a fraction of what you made me feel. You didn't just betray me. You destroyed my trust, my relationship, and my sense of self. And you never even apologized. Maybe now you'll understand how it feels to have something beautiful taken away. Anna. Lisa's hands shook as she read the message. The words hit her like a punch to the gut, each sentence dripping with pain and anger. She could feel Anna's heartbreak in every word, and for the first time, she truly understood the depth of her sister's hurt. Tears streamed down Lisa's face as she typed out a reply. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that I regret everything. You didn't deserve what I did to you. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me, but I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to you. Lisa. She hit send and collapsed onto the bed, her body shaking with sobs. Carl returned hours later, his expression unreadable. He didn't ask about the email, and Lisa didn't offer to explain. They spent the rest of the trip in silence, their relationship fractured beyond repair. When they returned home, Lisa reached out to Anna again, but her messages went unanswered. It wasn't until weeks later at a family gathering that Anna finally approached her. I got your email, Anna said, her voice cool but not unkind. And? Lisa asked nervously. Anna looked at her for a long moment before replying. I'm not ready to forgive you, but I'm ready to move on. It wasn't the reconciliation Lisa had hoped for, but it was a start. As for Carl, he quietly faded from both their lives, a reminder of the pain they'd caused and the lessons they'd learned. Anna moved forward with a renewed sense of strength, knowing she deserved better than the people who had betrayed her. And Lisa, for the first time, began the difficult work of rebuilding herself, not through lies or illusions, but through honesty and accountability. In the end, neither sister emerged unscathed, but both learned a truth they couldn't ignore. Love, when built on betrayal, can never truly last.